Good day, respected judges and participants. My name is Helen Yong from Kuala Pilah Community College. Today, artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming education. Students increasingly use AI tools for writing assistant, grammar corrections, and idea generation. However, this raises an important question for educators. Are we preparing students to use AI responsibly, or are we allowing AI to replace their thinking? This study explores how we can move from AI assistance to ethical awareness in AI-enhanced English classrooms for Polycc students. AI tools are now widely used by students in language learning. They help students generate ideas, correct grammar, and begin writing with greater confidence. However, many students perceive AI-generated content as ethically neutral. As a result, several challenges emerge. Over-reliance on AI, copying AI-generated content, and limited awareness of digital ethics. If students rely on AI without ethical understanding, learning may become superficial rather than meaningful. This study focuses on three objectives. Firstly, to explore students' experiences using AI in English learning. Secondly, to examine their ethical awareness when interacting with AI generated content. And thirdly, to investigate how guided instructions can develop digital literacy and ethical reasoning. In other words, how can educators guide students to use AI responsibly rather than rely on it? This research adopts a qualitative case study approach. Participants involve 20 Polycc students from Sandakan Polytechnic and Pilah Community College. Data were collected through classroom observations, semi-structured interviews, and reflective journals. AI tools were integrated into writing and speaking activities, supported by explicit instructions on the ethical use of AI. Students were encouraged not only to use AI but also to reflect critically on the use of it. Three major themes emerge from the findings. First, AI acts as a confidence support. Students experienced reduced language anxiety and found it easier to begin writing. Second, students initially demonstrated limited ethical awareness. Many copied AI generated text and assumed it could be used freely. However, through guided instruction, students gradually developed digital literacy. They began critically evaluating AI responses and adapting the content with their own ideas. This demonstrates that AI does not necessarily weaken learning. With proper guidance, it can strengthen critical thinking and responsible learning. These findings highlight something very important. The problem is not that students use AI, the problem is when they use AI without ethical understanding. The conceptual progression identified in this study begins with AI assistance. Students initially use AI for idea generation and grammar support, which increases confidence in language learning. However, without guidance, ethical blind spots may occur, such as copying AI output. With guided instructions and ethical discussions, students gradually develop ethical awareness, critical evaluation skills, and also irresponsible AI use. Thus, learning progresses from AI assistant to ethical awareness. The implications for educators are clear. English classrooms should not avoid AI. Instead, they should become spaces where students develop responsible AI use, digital literacy, and ethical awareness. Rather than banning AI tools, educators should guide students to evaluate and responsibly integrate AI into the learning process critically. The goal of education is not to compete with AI, but to teach students how to think alongside AI. AI should not replace learning. Instead, it should support ethical, reflective, and responsible learning. When educators guide students effectively, AI becomes not just a tool for assistance, but a platform for developing digital literacy and ethical awareness. This transformation reflects the central message of the study from AI assistant to ethical awareness. Before I conclude, I would like to leave you with one important thought. Artificial intelligence is not the future of education. Responsible learners are. And our role as educators is not to compete with AI, but to guide students to use AI wisely, ethically, and thoughtfully. Because the true goal of education is not simply producing answers, it is developing minds that can question, reflect, and learn responsibly in an AI driven world. Thank you for your time and attention. I hope this study inspired educators to guide students toward the ethical and responsible use of AI in learning. Thanks once again.